Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Max Story.
Hello, and thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. So today we're talking about mastering self-control. I really hope you checked out the last couple of episodes where I talked about Ria's content on demonstrating self-control at home, which was episode 439, and then demonstrating self-control at work, which was episode 440. Both of those are powerful chapters. If you slow down, you pause, you reflect, think about it, who you are, where you are, how you're being, that sort of thing. So now we're wrapping up the final chapter in this step. And the title in Ria's book's actually titled Mastering the First Step. And if this were to be your first episode, I'm basically doing a series on my wife's book, The Ladder of Influence. The subtitle is 5 Steps for Climbing to the Next Level and Beyond. So just wrapping up step 1 in today's episode, talking to you about mastering self-control. And I can't remember, I hope this is not a duplicate, but I want to share something with you that we have this new. I record my podcast far in advance sometimes, and I think that's what I've done over the last several episodes. I really can't remember. I record these things and schedule them, and I move on. I don't even listen to them and do any editing or anything. If I did that, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast, because I just ain't gonna make time to do that. Not something I'm interested in. I like talking about it, but I don't like doing the rest of it. And I don't want to deal with somebody else doing it. So this is what you get. Most people seem to like it. But the new thing we have is, I've been telling you, Ria and I both recorded a online video course on this book. I'm not going to talk to you much about that right now. I just want to tie it to what I'm about to talk to you about. You may have not ever have invested in a video course like that. This one's $99. You get 30 days to go through this 7.5-hour course. You get a 30-page workbook, and you get a certificate of completion. But you may not have ever done that. So Ria and I was thinking about it, and mainly it's her idea. It's a really good idea. We've got a lot of interest in it already. But we created a free 2-hour online video course as an introduction. So you can go and see exactly what it feels like to go through a video course. It's got 8 videos. The first 3 are kind of an introduction, and it's on the 5 types of leaders. And you can learn what kind of leader you are. Even if you're not a boss, even if no one reports to you, you are a leader. You should know that if you've been listening to my podcast any amount of time. So you're a leader, but what type are you? And then you report to someone, most likely. What type are they? You may live with someone, your spouse, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, that sort of thing. What type leader are they? Again, you don't have to be the boss. You're a leader at home. You're a leader at work. Everybody is. But what type are you? So you can dive into this course for free. Give it a test run. You go to the5typesofleaders.com, and 5 is the number 5. the5typesofleaders.com. You're going to have to fill in your information there. We're not going to spam you. We're not going to email you. We ain't going to text you and call you and all that sort of stuff. But we're using a platform that's a paid platform where all of our paid videos are at the Blue Collar Leadership Academy. So in order to use that platform, you got to fill all the stuff out, but you don't have to put in a credit card or anything like that. And so you just fill out your information, and then you get immediate access. You can download the handout, and you should, and it's got some fill in the blanks with it. And then when you get done, you'll actually get a certificate of completion saying you completed that course and what the date was, and it'll have mine and Ria's electronic signature on there and all that sort of stuff. Highly recommend on this, or if you do that course or any other course, make sure you give your boss a copy of that. Let them know you're invested in developing yourself. take a copy. I would print off a copy and take it to HR. Let the HR leaders know in case my boss don't let them know. A lot of times they won't do that. So I'm gonna make sure that both of them happen. And then if you're trying to get a raise, or you're trying to get promotions, or you're trying to get another job somewhere else, make sure you attach that to your resume. And if you were to be job hunting, you want somebody to make sure someone reads your resume, especially when you got to do all this online applications and all this kind of stuff. You still got to do that, but you make sure you go listen to my episode number 26. I got some tips on there if you're in the job market, or you're in it in the future. Don't forget this, episode 26. Go back and listen to that episode, and it'll help you. Help you. You'll get noticed. The decision maker there is going to see your resume. They're going to read it, and the better it looks when they do see it and read it, the better your chances. So if you got some personal development things that you're doing proactively on your own, maybe you're mastering self-control. That's what this episode is about. Mastering the first step, self-control. And part of that's discipline to go develop yourself. So check out that new free course. Share it with your friends, your coworkers, family members. Anybody can go in there and get that. And there's 8 15-minute videos, so it takes about 2 hours, and give you a lot of insight. Maybe it'll motivate and inspire you to get into some of the other courses and really stack your resume up, because when you do, you're going to stand out to everyone else. All right. So let's dive into today's content. So mastering the first step. Ria says being proactive and having being proactive and having control of self is more than being able to control emotions, thoughts, words, and actions. You got to do those things to control yourself. You got to master those things. It's also about accepting responsibility for yourself, the choice you made in the past, and reflecting on the choices you need to make now to create the future you want. Just like I was just talking about, I was sharing those online courses with you. Those are choices. Some people are going to hear this and make that choice, and they're going to separate themselves from their competition. It's going to be easier to get promotions, easier to get raises, easier to influence people, because they're going to be learning stuff that people who blow right past that don't do. It's just a choice. You got to understand, when we're talking about control of self, you're in control. You're in control of every choice you make, ever. Good or bad, doesn't make any difference. I will say about those online courses, when I was starting my growth journey, first 4 years, all I did pretty much was read books. I got into watching some videos. I did some audio books. But once I started going to conferences, that was the next thing I did. Spend thousands and thousands of dollars going to leadership conferences to hear people like me talk about stuff I talk about today. But back then I wasn't doing nothing but listening. I was focusing on my growth and development. I wasn't prepared and ready to really start helping others grow and develop, because I still had a bunch of this work we're talking about right now to do on myself. But at some point in there around, it was 2012, I think, 2013, I did a lot of video courses. Same type. It's where we got this idea, because I went through it myself. Play the video, download the worksheet, fill in the blanks. I loved it. It just resonated with me. And I had Chad Cox, if he's listening, give him a shout out. But he went through some of these online courses, and I've been mentoring Chad for quite a while. And he called me up after he finished that first course and the video course online. He wanted to talk about it. He's been reading my books. He's been sharing my books with other folks, things like that. And he's been doing it for years. But when he went through his first video course, it lit a fire in him like nothing else had. And things resonated with him. He was quoting mine and Ria's books and quotes from the worksheets, things we had said in those videos, it just stuck to him. He stuck in his brain like super glue. And he's just rattling off all these quotes, and it resonated with him. And that's why another reason we create that free course. That may happen to you, and you won't know it unless you go give it a try. So go to the5typesofleaders.com and give it a try. You do it at your own pace, whenever you want, in your own space. And you got access to it. Doesn't go away. The other ones are monthly subscriptions. So you got 30 days, and you either got to unsubscribe or pay again to keep going. But you should be able to finish in 30 days if you're being intentional about it. But I'm just sharing all that to say there's all kind of ways to learn. All kind of ways. But the key to that, though, is you got to control yourself. He's talking about, Ria was talking about controlling emotion, thoughts, words, and actions. Well, right now I'm talking about the actions piece. Controlling yourself. What are you doing? When are you doing it? Why are you doing it? How are you doing it? Who you doing it with, or who you not doing it with? Lots of things roll into this control of self step. That's why it's the first step. It's the foundation of all the other steps. And, this is a 3-page chapter if you're reading the book, or 20, 30-minute podcast if you're listening to this particular episode. But this is something you focus on your entire life. You already know this. Controlling yourself is always a challenge. You may get it right 10 hours out of the day, and then you may explode the next 2 seconds out of the same day for some reason. That's just how we're wired. It's constant. It's like playing sports. You're constantly practicing to get better. And as long as you play in the sport, you're going to always be practicing to get better. You want to focus on control of self? As long as you're alive, you need to be practicing to get better. Because these tidal waves are coming. I always say, if life's good right now, you better just hang on, because there's a tsunami coming for you. And it may be something little. So let's move on to some more stuff Ria's talking about here relative to control of self. And she says, want better health? Start making better choices relative to your health. It sounds simple, right? It doesn't do so simple. It sounds easy, but it doesn't do easy. She says, want a bigger salary? Start making better choices relative to your career. That's what I was talking about. You're listening to this podcast. That's one choice. You can attend conferences like I did. That's another choice. It don't matter who you are. You can find conferences and pay to go to them if you want to separate yourself. You can do online courses like I was talking about earlier. You can do hours. It don't have to be hours. There's all type of people who have online courses. You got to figure it out. What works for you? Who do you like to listen to? Who teaches in a way that resonates with you? We're talking about making a bigger salary or getting a better job, that sort of thing. And Ria says, every choice you've ever made has brought you to where you are today. That's about taking responsibility. Wherever you are. You may be working right now in a company for a boss, and you can't stand that boss. And people who can't control themselves run around and moan and groan and complain about the boss. The boss that they choose to work for every day. See how this works? If I got a bad boss, and trust me, I've had a bunch of them back in my working days. And I didn't know all this stuff back then. So I did what a lot of people are still doing today. I moan, groan, and whine about the bad boss. And I sat around the break table, and me and my coworkers moan, groan, and whined about the bad boss, because we were all the same. We were not developing ourselves, and the leaders were not developing us or themselves. Round and round we went. But you want a bigger salary? Start making choices that'll get you that bigger salary. When I started developing myself early on, I started getting a bigger salary. I started getting promotions. I started getting new opportunities. But before I ever studied all this stuff, when I just started having self-control, what we're talking about in this chapter, this whole step has been about that. Last 4 chapters plus this one makes 5. I've been talking about self-control. But back in my young days, I used to get passed by for promotions, for raises, for all kind of things very early in my career because I wasn't exercising self-control. But soon as basically it was when I had my son, when my son Eric was born, 1991, that changed me. And if you've had children, you know how it kind of changes you because you have a higher level of responsibility. It's not just about you anymore. Now it's about you and somebody else, that young child of yours. So I started making different choices. Like I'd never been fired, but I should have been fired a lot. But once Eric was born, I had to worry about if I got fired. I didn't want to get fired because I had to do my part, take care of him, help his mother take care of him. So I started naturally getting better. But when I started exercising self-control, just little bits, I started getting raises. I started getting promotion opportunities. I started getting people to ask me my opinions, which means I started developing influence, which means I was growing and developing my leadership. We're talking about the ladder of influence right here. Control of self at home and at work. The last 2 episodes, I talked about that. You control yourself, your influence is going to go up. Your influence goes up, your life's going to get better. Let's talk about jobs, being at work again. I talked a little bit about that a second ago. In her book, Rhea talks about someone who reached out to her and called her and asking for advice with a how to handle a work situation. They were having a problem with a coworker, and the coworker was basically harassing the person who had called Rhea, and they wanted to know what to do about it. They went to their supervisor, their leader, their boss, and also the HR department, and basically the harassment was brushed over and ignored by the leaders within the organization. Now you may not be at the moment being harassed by anyone, but you may not like where you work for some other reason. Could be the boss, could be the pay, could be all kinds of things. So what I'm about to teach you that Rhea shares in the book applies to any situation where you're at work and you don't like it, whatever that is for you. Happens to a lot of people. So it's pretty cool because Rhea told them the same thing that I would tell somebody. But I'm talking about Rhea's book, so giving her credit right here because I'm looking at it on page 31. Just a couple of things. This is what Rhea told her. She says, you have 3 options. 1, quit your job. Culture is based on leadership and won't change until leadership changes. Number 2, keep working there and be miserable about it, blaming the organizational leaders because they won't address it or stop it. You can become angry because it happened, bitter because it was tolerated, or frustrated because you'll still be working with this person. Or 3, keep working there and control your emotions. Regardless of what's going on, you have a choice to let it make you upset and angry or not. So let's talk about these a little bit, these 3 things when you're at work and you don't like the situation. Quit your job. A lot of people moaning and groaning about something they choose to do every day. They choose to work with a person they don't like I said earlier. Choose to work in a company they don't like. Why don't they have options? They do have options. They can quit any moment. That comes with consequences. And if you ain't exercised self-control, you may have a lot of debt. So you can't quit because you got to have that job. What got you in that position? Choices. Lack of self-control. Wanting stuff you can't afford. I've been there. I know. I remember when me and Eric's mother used to have way back in the early 90s, $8 a week left after we paid all our bills and planned for the week and budgeted and planned for gas and food and all that sort of stuff. Life was rough. Guess why it was rough? because I was an idiot, wasting money. Didn't have a lot of money, but the money I had, I was wasting it. I always had some beer. What's that tell you about where my values were? But I'm better now. Hadn't drank since 2012, so I ain't wasted a cent on alcohol. I ain't woke up feeling bad because of alcohol. I ain't had to apologize because I did something stupid because of alcohol. See what I'm talking about? Self-control, choices. We all got them. We don't always make such good choices. So somebody can quit their job. Number 2, keep working there and be miserable about it. That right there is what most people do. Number 2, that's what most people do. They keep working there and they stay miserable about it. They blame the organizational leaders and that sort of stuff. Guess what? If you're doing that, you're shooting yourself in the foot because you're working somewhere you don't want to like, and then you're doing it in a way that causes you not to have any meaningful influence. You're your own worst enemy. You got to get away from number 2. Number 2 is killing your career. It's killing your bank account. It's killing you. And then number 3 was keep working there and control your emotions. So people who don't have a choice to quit, they got to learn how to control themselves so they can look in the mirror and say, I'm responsible. There ain't nobody to blame that I'm working here except for me. So they need to control their emotions, and then they need to do what you're doing right now, some personal development. Figure out how to grow and develop themselves so they can create some options. And the option I'm talking about is go back to number 1, quit your job. But see, what might happen and what is likely to happen is when a person gets self-control, they start to gain influence. So it's quite possible that the job that somebody hated, the place that they didn't want to work, when they actually get self-control, start to develop influence and they're developing their character, the problems that they saw at work go away because they didn't realize they were the problem. We're always the problem. But even if that doesn't happen, this person can go to work, be calm, be squared away, be listening to podcasts, be going through video courses, be doing whatever people do, reading books to get better. And either the job's going to get better because they get better, or they're going to get a better job somewhere else because they get better. Either way, now they're in control. That's why I'm doing this podcast, every one of them, to try to help you get in control of your life so you can climb to the next level and beyond. All right. Ria says, have patience with others who aren't there yet. Share the principles you've learned and help them begin to climb the ladder of influence. What she's talking about is being patient. If you're listening to this podcast, especially if you've been listening to all 400-something episodes, you done learned a lot. And you deal with a lot of people who don't do anything for personal development. They ain't there yet, according to what Ria's talking about, right? But here she's talking about specifically control of self. So when you're dealing with people, once you learn to control yourself, one of those things you got to learn to do relative to that is have patience. Because you're going to live in a world where most people can't control themselves at home or at work. And if you're still in that situation, the number 1 thing you can do is model the stuff I'm talking about and Ria's talking about in this book. But also share it. Share it with them. Share this podcast with them. Say, hey, I got some value out of this. I think you might. Go back and share the first part in this series right here. I forget what number it was, but you can scroll backwards in your app and find it. Not that far back. We're on chapter 8 now. So the intro was 8-9 chapters ago or episodes ago. All right, and this is a big one Ria shares here. She says, most stress is self-induced. So is most drama. Yeah, most of our stress, our choices are causing our stress. Our choices are causing our drama. My friend Amir Ganad, he talks about drama. Whenever you care deeply about something, you're going to experience drama around that something. Something that always seems to be obvious to everyone is politics. A lot of people care about politics, so they experience a lot of drama. I keep up with what's going on in the world, but I ain't got no drama around it, politics or anything else. It ain't that important to me. I mean, it's important, but I do my part. I do my vote, and I carry on. I don't get tangled up in it. I don't talk about it. You don't hear me talking about it. I'm using that as an example now because everybody sees it. There's a lot of drama, but you don't have to be involved in it. There's people you know that have experienced drama relative to things. Could be sports. I don't get into that either. A lot of drama happens during football seasons, especially in Alabama where I grew up. I'm in Georgia now, but I grew up Alabama. Alabama and Auburn, lots of drama. How much drama is it? Depends on which team you're pulling for. Because you care if they win or not so strongly. If you don't care, like me, it doesn't make any difference. I don't experience drama in that area. And I do my best not to experience drama in any area because I don't like drama. Drama causes stress. Most stress is self-induced, so is most drama, just like Rhea says. Rhea says, life happens, problems occur, challenges arise, people do or say things we don't like or that aren't right, but the choice of how we respond is entirely up to us. And the more we get it right, the easier it becomes to get it right. That mind muscle, just like any other muscle, you got to work it out intentionally or it gets weak. If you want to grow it, you got to work it out a lot, very intentionally, and get strong, which means you got to go back and do what I talked about in previous episodes. You got to learn how to pause, choose your response based on values. You may be listening to this step or this episode, and I'm talking about this final chapter in the first step of control of self, mastering control of self. How do you do that? You got to go listen to all the 5 episodes related to this step. You got to read other books. You got to go through online courses, video courses. You got to go to conferences. You got to read books. Maybe this book. Maybe some of my other books or Rhea's books or some books from somebody else. Whatever you got to do, you got to keep this stuff top of mind. That's why I'm rattling off all these things related to personal development. You got to keep it top of mind. That's how you're exercising this muscle. You got to create awareness and sustain awareness around whatever it is you're focused on. Right now, I'm focused on helping you focus on control of self. And I've shared stories with you about my crazy days, short temper. I had a lot of work to do in this area. You want to reach out to me? My cell phone, 334-728-4143. I might be able to give you some tips one-on-one that you ain't getting from this podcast or from reading a book or from going through a video course. But Rhea says start small. Start small. Whatever that means, control of self. It might mean go get some exercise today. You may be always so busy. I'm too busy to go to the gym. Okay, that's an excuse. Walk out your door, walk down the street, and turn around and come back. What's stopping you from doing that? Got time to sit on the couch, turn on the TV. Got time to pick up a phone and scroll social media for 30 minutes. I'm just saying, we got choices. Those choices come with consequences. Rhea's got a quote here in her book from Dan, maybe Butner. I'm not really sure. Doesn't matter. Ain't about his name. It's about what he said. He says, the people you surround yourself with influence your behaviors. So choose friends who have healthy habits. How about that? We're talking about control of self. One of the areas you need to control is who you hang around with. Who you hang around with at work. You hang around the bad actors or the people who have a lot of influence, who move the organization forward. Depends on who you are. who you hang out with. But who you hang out with has a lot to do with who you are, meaning it's kind of like the chicken and the egg, which comes first. But when you get control of self, you're in control. You decide. All right. We'll start climbing up to step 2 next episode. Hope you found value in this one. Check out that free course. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.